Okay, so I wanted to very quickly run through one of the most important, one of the focal points of this meta and the meta in the Countdown Cup. Now, they sort of play different if you're playing different comps. Obviously, with the hero pools and everything, different comps have become more viable, but the general sort of concept of the dive with the Sombra and the Monkey and the Ana, which is half of what Seoul is running here, is sort of similar. You can still play the dive on a lot of maps, and on this map where Seoul are playing the dive, I want to point out one of the most important sort of facets of playing the dive comp that I think Seoul mess up here, and one of the things that teams like Shanghai and to an extent even Hangzhou managed to pull off a lot better than Seoul do right here. So one of the key facets in the dive, and this is, mostly based on the meta we saw in the Countdown Cup, because we have a lot more material to work with than just this match today. But is that when you go down a player, when you're down 5v6, you send your Winston in with a pocket, with the Ana pocket, and usually the Zarya bubble, but because Zarya is banned, we've got D.Va. So D.Va doesn't actually dive in this scenario, so it's just Gesture who goes in. And the whole point of sending your Monkey in when you're down 5v6 is you send your Monkey in with the Ana pocket, and maybe even the Mercy pocket, and he's got his bubble, and you hope that he can live long enough to distract the healers enough so that your DPS, in this case just Prophet, and then maybe to you, can find a pick, right? The whole point of sending the Monkey in is you take space so you can try and stabilize by finding a pick of your own, so it's down to a 5v5. And I want to point out what the difference is between the top teams who can figure out when to do this at the right time and when's not a good time to do this versus, the teams like Seoul who understand the meta but don't understand when the default actions shouldn't be taken. Like right here, as you're about to see, is a scenario where Gesture should not have tried to go in and take space and try and make space for his DPS to find a pick. He should have just waited, but he goes in anyway, and he cuts off LOS to his healers, and he just gets melted. So I want to point out this specifically because it's exactly what teams shouldn't be doing, and exactly what, the smart teams with the best coaches and the smart Monkey players, although I'm not saying just as a dumb Monkey player, but the smart Monkey players will figure out, and the smart teams will figure out when to do this and when not to do this. So just watch this clip. We're going to start from where Shui has already taken down Fitz. Seoul are on defense, so if they don't win this fight, they've lost the first point. So it's ideal for them to sort of go all in. But the way they think going all in is the following, and I want you to watch Gesture here.
But he's very, very good.
So we've got both supports, and we've got the McCree playing in this small room, and then we've got the Sigma playing sort of a semi-off angle. He's very close. I think he's about to rotate into the small room, in fact, but for the moment, it's the supports and the McCree playing in this small room, and the Sigma playing a semi-off angle. Now watch what Gesture does. Sigma's going to push forward, the supports are playing in this doorway, and Gesture jumps in, and he does this to... It's literally possibly the most important part of playing, not this specific comp, because we saw in Countdown Cup that the D.Va was on Zarya, and the healers were different, and it was usually a Sombra Tracer or a Sombra Genji DPS line, but just watch. See what Gesture's done here. He's dived into the doorway, put the bubble down, and he's trying to make space and put cleave down on the healers and the McCree in the hope that he can draw enough attention from these three players here so that the rest of his team can find a pick. If you think about it this way, Gesture's fighting a 1v3 here. So we started with a 5v6, right? We started with a 5v6. Let me write this down. We started with a 5v6. Gesture goes in to fight a 1v3, which means that remaining now, you have a 4v3 in favor of Seoul, right? Because you minus the 1 from... This is just dumb, but you minus the 1 from Seoul and you minus the 3 from London, so you end up with Seoul with 4 players against London with 3. right? So you're actually in an advantageous position, but the problem is here, Gesture gets melted so fast that it goes from being a 4v3 to these three players being able to rejoin the fight, and it becomes a 4v6, right? And that's worse than a 5v6. You definitely have lost first point on Eichenwald as defenders if you're down 4v6, unless Prophet somehow is also a hit scan god as well as being a flex DPS god. Anyway, watch this. Gesture just gets destroyed because Bernard turns around and manages to like pound him with hyperspheres, and Krillin has the Discord on him, and Hylie is just like spamming him, and there's a Rissa there and a McCree with a flashbang. Like, he gets melted, he gets obliterated, bro. He's like, people are shedding tears at his funeral by now. Like, that's how fast he died. And then I want to bring up